Hello and welcome to HI Talk Show. I'm your host Syed. This is where we talk about what's really happening in the job market and how both job seekers and HR professionals can stay ahead in this rapidly changing world of work. In this episode, I'm joined once again, by one and only Randy Wallace. She's a talent attraction partner at Jobber with many years of hands-on experience helping companies hire, adapt, and grow. She'll be joining me and we'll be discussing some insights to help you make smart moves, information such as latest job numbers, layoffs, how AI is impacting you as a job seeker or as an HR professional. So let's get right into it and see what you can learn from our discussion that can help you navigate this market with confidence. So, Randy, welcome back again. It's a pleasure having you back. We had a very fruitful conversation last time that when we chat and we got some good numbers on every platform when I posted our talk. So, well, I wanted to thank you first on, coming to my show last time, and now this time we have a different format. But first, thank you for joining. Once we dive into the conversation in this format, we will start off with some job stats, and then also I wanted to know your advice on a few things from job seeker perspective and current market conditions, and also as a HR professional, what are the implications of AI in their job role, and how can they make sure they're not scared of AI, like that's something they should empower themselves and be confident in whatever work they're doing. So let's get it going. So in terms of the stats, I'll be covering Canada and then the south of the border. In Canada, it's the last report was, I consider it as a sort of weak report. The unemployment was it's like at least 6.9% in April. Ontario lost around like 33,000 manufacturing jobs, which is because of tariff. If I have to blame it on something.
Yeah.
South of the border, I think they're much better than us. I mean, a little bit. I don't know what's happening on the ground, but the numbers are better. Yeah, they added 27,000, almost 200K jobs. But layoffs are still happening across the industries. Even today, I saw Microsoft and some other companies were laying off people. I don't know how to make sense of all this. What do you think on this? From Canadian perspective and the U.S. perspective.
Yeah, great question. I think it's kind of top of mind for everyone right now. I really try to find a balance between giving folks like a realistic picture of what it's looking like while not being like too doom and gloom. Because it can be easy to get caught in that like negative mindset. But really what's happening right now is there's a lot of instability. And there's a lot of uncertainty. And what that results in, obviously, like we're seeing the layoffs, we're seeing those pieces that are a direct result of things like the tariffs and stuff like that. But another reaction is that companies are switching to what we call like cautious hiring. So even if they are growing and even if they are hiring, they're doing it in a much lower volume and they're doing it in a way that they're being a lot more picky about the people that they choose. So what you're going to see is processes that are much longer. You're going to see companies pausing roles probably midway. You're going to see a really low volume of roles, even for the companies that are hiring, just because they are trying to be like super cautious. They're trying to be picky about the people they choose. All this uncertainty is kind of just making companies pause a little bit and be a little bit, like I said, more cautious when they're talking about like their hiring projections.
Yeah, no, I agree to that. I was just reading an article, I think, on Wall Street or one of these top publication, and it's sort of like gave, I think, what the term you mentioned was hiring. It was similar where companies are hiring really slow. They're taking their time to make sure the candidate is perfect. I mean, they always make sure the candidate is perfect, but the process itself is, they go through internal hiring first and make sure they really need this role. Is it going to be taken if this role has a potential to be curbed within the firm? Let's say the role A is open. If they can divide that role within the current team members, they would do that rather than hiring someone
Mhm.
else at this point. So I think you're spot on with that. And in terms of from job seekers' point of view, how do you think they should be positioning themselves at this moment? Like it's sort of like a tight market, and
Mhm.
they're not really sure on what to do. Should they upskill at this time? Should they use this time more to just don't make any move and stay where they are? That type of stuff. What would you sort of like, recommend based on your, I think, you have like many years in talent acquisition. So if you can share some
Mhm.
insights for the folks out there.
I think there's a mix of everything. So, first of all, maybe we'll talk through the perspective of folks who are laid off or
Yeah.
are looking for work who don't currently have a job. There is a lot of competition in the market right now, and
Yeah.
that it makes it harder, but it doesn't make it impossible if you go about it in the right way. So, where I would suggest investing your time is really in networking. We are seeing a huge shift in the job market away from applying through applications. Even, in my current hiring processes, we get 300 applications for any role that we post overnight. And a lot of them are completely irrelevant to the position. So it's a lot of noise. And if you are a qualified candidate, you might be getting lost in the shuffle of things. But we're prioritizing referrals, we're prioritizing people in our team's networks. So, really taking that time, having coffee chats, reaching out on LinkedIn. If you're laid off, a lot of companies will offer that like alumni support. Really leaning into those resources that you have, spend more time on networking than you do on like fixing in your resume and finding the perfect resume and like mass applying to jobs, because like that's just not going to get you anywhere whether you are the perfect applicant or not. So my first piece of advice, if you are laid off, if you're looking for work, start building your network. Like that is where you're going to see the most success moving forward.
Yeah, and on top of that, and I was gonna say it's like in terms of even networking, it's not the same. It has to be a different approach, has to be more quality driven approach, and has to be
Hmm.
like I was just talking to someone yesterday, and this person is in the job market, and I was telling him that maybe the better way is having do your research and what type of dream companies you want to be at, like 100, 200, whatever the list is. And nowadays, every company is pumping out so much content, like or they will be doing it. Main thing is most of the stuff you can find it online just to see what type of employee they hire, what type of culture that they kind of like go after and position yourself and meet those folks. Obviously, have coffee chat with them as well, but even online, your presence should reflect or mirror that behavior, that kind of you
Yes,
want to be part of that group, that they
exactly.
should
The
feel like
personal branding.
yeah, and yeah, that's right, spot on. Like the branding of like you should have it with intention, not just personal branding. I need to have a fancy LinkedIn and I need to have a beautiful picture. That won't do much unless you have right intention. These are the companies, just like companies do
Mhm.
marketing, they have these are the clients that we want to reach out to. If you want to be a thought leadership in this space, XYZ, and we're gonna go bang on. I feel like it's time for job seekers to do similar approach where they are kind of like having a process to do a mini marketing for
Mhm.
themselves.
No,
Would you agree to that?
100%. I think, there's also, and we'll get into this a little bit when we talk about AI, but there is a lot of people who are applying who are not accurate to that. Their resume doesn't match what their actual experience is. So as a recruiting team, we now specifically go to people's LinkedIn pages to confirm they are who they say they are. So, and when I go to that LinkedIn page, if I see that personal branding, if I can see your values, if I can see who you are as a person, what you're looking for, like I am much more likely to engage with you as a candidate because I see some of your personality. Whereas, like in a resume, like it's so 2D. And I know you and I have talked about this before too, but it's such a terrible way of being
Yeah,
able
yeah,
to understand the human behind the paper. And not that LinkedIn is a perfect solve for that, but I think it does give you more of an avenue to show who you are as a person. And one thing I would say too, and like in what you're saying, is like matching your personal branding to those companies that you want, but also make sure it's authentic.
yeah.
Don't
That's
just
true.
do it for the sake of targeting companies. Do it because it aligns with your personal values and aligns with your career goals. It aligns with who you are as a person. Because I think in that personal branding, it lands so much more powerfully when it's authentic to who you are. So that would be like one caveat I would put, like, don't do it for the sake of doing it unless you like have strong intentions behind it, kind of as you were highlighting there.
Yeah, no, that's a big one, authenticity, because I mean that's how you relate to people in real life. So if you're trying to fake who you are after, few months or few days or few years, it shatters, and you kind of like lose all the work you have done. So no, I think that's a big one, and that's most important one. So let's segue into AI since you touched on this hot topic.
Hmm.
So AI is everywhere, GPT,
Everyone's talking about it.
Gemini, everyone is talking about it. And people are, they're, I see the two camps. One is, I mean, this camp is growing pretty faster where they're adopting, even in job seekers. I want to stick to job seekers
Hmm.
for now. So job seekers are, they are going on LinkedIn, I'm sorry, these tools, ChatGPT and whatnot, to help them with resume writing, cover letter, and even like emailing, the task that
Hmm.
they just want to get the best version out and send it. But there's a lot of pros and pitfalls I think you have mentioned, and you know of in your line of work that you see in and day out. So if you can share some pros and cons or do's or don't, I think that's better here. Do's and don'ts for job seekers, how
Hmm.
they should be leveraging these tools and
For
how they
sure.
should not be doing it.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of job seekers leveraging AI to support them because job seeking is exhausting and it's a
Yeah.
lot of time investment. There's a lot of like nitty-gritty work to it. So where you can leverage AI to help with some of those smaller tasks, like leverage it to edit your resume and your cover letter, do it for interview prep and put in some like interview answers, get it to refine it, use the STAR model, do mock interviews for that preparation. Like these are all great ways that you can be utilizing AI, but do it very carefully because we see a lot of AI being used and we can tell when you're using AI. So
Yeah.
what I always say to people is like use it as a first draft and then always do a human edit no matter what. Even if you think
Mhm.
it's perfect, do a human edit because we want it to speak you, we don't want it to speak robot. And you'd be surprised how many resumes I screen in a row that all have like the same paragraph and like the same structure and the same points because people have literally just copy and pasted from ChatGPT and we can tell. And that definitely does like paint a picture. I've even had people like send me emails that they've literally copied the top where it says use this response in the email and they haven't taken the time to like edit that out of it. So make sure you're doing your due diligence. Take a second, take a beat before you copy and paste it. Do that human edit side of things so that your responses, your content, it doesn't speak to AI. Use it just to like save time. But it's
Yeah.
not meant to like replace the authentic human side of things. And then one other thing, I will beg people if they can take one thing away from this, do not use it in interviews. We can tell you're using it. We can hear you typing, the pauses that you take between our
Uh,
answers, and then come up with like a perfectly scripted answer. We can tell. So use it in the preparation. Do not use it in the actual interview because you'd be surprised how much we can actually tell.
Yeah, no, I had so many times when, even for in my line of work, whenever we're doing any interviews, and if I'm doing 100, at least maybe 5 to 10 people, you can see that they are looking here or looking
Exactly.
something is off. Like this. I'm like, man, I can tell. So then I have to tell them, hey, listen, it's okay if you don't know the answer. At least tell me. Then when we present you to the client, we know your strengths and weaknesses. Anyway,
Hmm.
so yeah, in terms of the what I was gonna add to it, like it's just making it more efficient. Like if you used to apply to 100 high quality jobs before GPT, now you can do 20, sorry, like more than that, double or whatever your speed is. It just helps you increase that speed, not just
Hmm.
necessarily copy pasting. Because even if you do copy paste and you get to, let's say I did and I'm interviewing you, you can ask me questions and I won't know the answers to it, and you're gonna be like, within, it's just a waste of everyone's time. And
Hmm.
then for future reference, you're gonna be marked as a candidate. Hey, this person, not a good fit or whatever. And if you apply again, and all these recommendations are saved in all the
Hmm.
platforms that every HR person uses. You just decrease your chances to joining that company for a very, very long time unless you get a new experience and whatever.
Yeah. Even if you're like perfect for the role, like it just like changes the company's perspective. And one other thing I'd add into, which I'm seeing a lot of, is you can use AI to apply to roles for you. So that
Yeah.
basically is like bots that go out and you'll put in like a job title and it will apply to like any role in a certain area under that job title. And I understand the intention behind it, but don't do that because the
Mm.
AI will not answer the job post questions. So we can tell immediately when someone has applied through AI versus like applied to us because they want to work for us. So
Interesting.
just make sure that you're being cautious. Like I understand there's like that time investment piece of wanting to really catch all those jobs that maybe you don't have visibility into. But like I said, it's not a perfect system. Like if there's job post questions, like why do you want to work here? It'll like leave it blank or it'll give you some like irrelevant answer, which like again, automatically I know you're not applying here because you want to work for
Yeah.
us. I know you're just using AI. So that would be another like cautionary tale I would tell folks out there.
Yeah, I didn't know like, there's some tools that are. I thought they would be coming out soon, but they're that's gonna be like a lot of spam, spam applications
Yes.
now with like people just setting up this bot to apply to 100 positions. Yeah,
Hmm.
that would be interesting. Now, in terms of the other side of the spectrum where AI is helping us as in HR professionals, how do you see it from that lens? Is it should we be anxious like this is here? It can take interviews now. It can take as it all most of the tasks that as a talent acquisition person or even just any role in HR, even if you're in compliance, this thing can spin
Hmm.
out a SOP in like 2 seconds. Hey, this is my company. This is So all these lenses, I know from however you see from your line of work, do you think it is causing the anxiety is real, or it's sort of like a myth for now, and it's going to take a long time for it to do anything, if that's the case from your point of view?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's something I've thought a lot about, and I understand where the anxiety is stemming from, but it's called human resources for a reason. You cannot
That's
completely replace a function that has a huge component based in empathy, human interaction with robots. Like that's just you can't do that. And one thing that you and I were talking about ahead of this was AI is going to replace job tasks, not
yeah.
necessarily jobs. So I think when we look at like the HR field, I think it's actually a really exciting thing because HR used to be viewed as a very administrative function. And now we're seeing a trend towards it being a lot more strategic. And I think AI is going to support that movement of HR becoming more strategic because AI is going to take the admin away. It's going to take those like small menial tasks away, and then it will allow what's remaining to be very strategic and very human. So, what I would say in terms of like folks in HR is like, you need to get on board with using AI tools in recruiting or in HR. You need to train yourself. You need to stay on top of these trends because the folks that are going to be most successful in this field moving forward are the ones that are leveraging AI. So, like specifically when we look at like recruiting, for instance, recruiters are using it to source people. So they're using like Boolean strings, and AI is supporting them in like sourcing particular profiles.
Hmm.
It's, in ATS, it allows us to like screen out specific folks that don't meet certain characteristics. Even in interviews now, we have AI note takers and it draws insights and gives us kind of like a summary of the interview and certain things that like showed up in it. And at the end of the day, like I still have to be in the interview asking the questions, but it just takes a lot of those like admin pieces. It allows me to be present, it allows me to be strategic. I mean, similar to the advice I was giving with like job seekers, I don't take anything on face value that the
Hmm.
AI gives me. I'm always adding that human component into it. So again, I understand where the anxiety is coming from, but if you are worried about it, do your due diligence, stay on top of AI trends, look at different technologies out there, look at the processes you have in place, and ask yourself where AI can save you time so that you can be focused on the more human, like strategic side of HR.
Yeah, and I was just thinking, even if the other alternative is true, let's say we go in parallel universe where these things are taking over and all that stuff. I think at least for next our generation and next two, three generations, gonna be, for example, even screen time is a big deal for us. We're on the screen and we get fatigue, and it's just not natural in our psychology to be associated with any form of technology for unlimited amount of time. So if you say we will
Mhm.
replace someone else, a robot will take your interviews, I'm pretty sure, yeah, it will be let's say, hypothetical scenario where this robot is doing fantastic job. But let's say a few years ago, a few years down the line, one company is saying all AI stuff, and at the start is honeymoon phase. Oh wow, this is a great implementation, and wow, crazy stuff, and this and that. But over time, people might get tired of just giving interview to a robot,
Mhm.
like which cannot connect with them, or they'll find a way to, oh, when you say these words, this robot pushes you to the next step. They'll figure out some sort of things around it to kind of like beat that. Just like we have done with so many things, everything came. There's a new technology, and then there's a hack for to kind of like uh, get. I feel like it's not. I mean, let's see what happens, but it's very hard to say like everything will be in jobs will be gone and all that kind of stuff. Even the I was just reading the article with which um, the vaccine company Moderna, which was another
Hmm.
hot topic a few years ago. So they implemented tech with their HR department, and this article came on Wall Street Journal, sorry, not Journal. So Wall Street Journal. So point is like I will just read the quote. The person who implemented this, they're just saying it's like a virtual HR AI agent. It's what would normally be a junior level HR analyst role. Exactly what you're saying. It's not something
Hmm.
note taking or scheduling interviews and these type of stuff. They made custom GPTs to help them maneuver small tasks, but still the legwork and everything else is being done by human beings. We still need humans in HR. And that's why I call
Hmm.
this the HI. So that's the difference. We're trying to be human intelligence rather than the artificial intelligence.
The one thing I'll quickly jump in there that I think we didn't talk about at the top, which I do want to acknowledge in what you're saying, is like, I think what's happening in the job market, AI, everything in general, is like it is really going to affect junior folks. So, like, I think that's really important for new grads and people to know kind of what that looks like. Because if we go back to like hiring trends, their companies aren't hiring junior roles. And then to your point, like a lot of junior roles are the ones that are getting replaced by AI. So if I were to kind of like think what's going to be most affected when we talk about AI, is it's going to be those like junior admin roles. That can now kind of really be done through AI. So just wanted to acknowledge that
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think, depending where you are on your career, it will probably affect you differently as well.
Yeah, no, you're right. Because me and my wife last night we were watching this CNBC, the released documentary, and it was on Gen Z, how they're shifting towards skilled labor, skilled
Hmm.
trades, more
Yeah.
and more welders and all that stuff, because the college tuition is quite high, and then they don't see ROI when they graduate. So
Hmm.
they are seeing this shift, and they are kind of like, which is, I feel like it's also, it could be good in a way, because my past experience in skilled trades, especially in Canada, is big shortage in so many different areas, plumbers and different even welders. We don't have good carpenters anymore, woodworking shops, and I don't think that's gonna go away. You need a furniture, you need these basic
Yeah.
stuff.
So
It could be a good thing, but yeah, it's hurting those sectors. Sorry, you were saying something.
I was gonna say like those types of jobs too are more recession proof as well. So these
Yeah,
like Gen Zs who've seen a lot of turmoil, like in their younger years, they've seen parents laid off, things like that.
100%.
They are
COVID.
moving towards, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
so
They're
many
moving
things.
towards roles that like offer more stability and security. And I think it will be a good thing to see folks like moving towards those skilled trades and see a boom in that area. So it's definitely needed. And then it will create like a lot more stability in the economy as well, I think.
Yeah, let's see how a picture unrolls, but it's like mixed feeling where you are excited for the future, but at the same time, it's one of those
Hmm.
shifts that haven't maybe we haven't gone through in many decades, where like everything is changing so fast.
Yeah.
So
Well, if we
yeah,
think
let's
back
see.
to when we all thought the world was going to end at 2000, when all the
2012.
computers were going to implode and how silly we looked after that. We've been through stuff like this before. We don't understand how technology is going to land. And not saying this will be a similar situation where it's like completely unfounded,
Hmm.
but I think like we've seen this type of fear and to like change in technology before, and you always figure it out on the other side. So I think that's like something folks should walk away with as well. Is humans are incredibly adaptable and incredibly resistant,
Yeah,
and there's growing pains and there's probably a lot of strife in that transition, but there's always another side of it. So I think
100%.
that's something to remember from like a hopeful point of view as well.
Yeah, let's hope is a strategy for now at least. I think we'll find a way
Why
out.
not choose hope, right?
All right, Randy. Well, thank you for joining. It's fun
Thank
talking
you.
to you as usual. So we will tune in every once a month, check in with the latest updates in the industry and the job market, what's happening, and based on that, we will give some tips and tricks and our 2 cents on those things. So excited to continue to do this with you, and then we'll have some good guests as well joining us in different episodes. And if anything you guys like us to talk about, any specific topic that Randy can share or I can share, please let us know in comments, and we'll be happy to take notes and discuss those in the next show. Thank you.